Hello, it is Monday, April 3rd, 2023 at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, USA. I'm Mitch Miller. This is my video journal. Getting over COVID here, so my thoughts might be a little scattered here. Now I've never been in a war room. The situation room or whatever, except in like psychic dreams I've had. But I guess my question is, if you're looking at screens of operations going on, or an operation going on abroad, special forces or whatever, and they come in a helicopter, and you're getting readouts on the screen of the altitude of the helicopter and some of the instrument readings, then aren't those instruments wirelessly linked to a top secret satellite network? And aren't they able to be hypothetically hacked or manipulated? Now, maybe there aren't altimeter readings and stuff like that. It's just, other information scrolling on that screen. I mean, I guess my point is that if you design a aircraft, it would be fine for the communication equipment to be wirelessly linked, right? So that you could keep in contact anywhere in the world. But you would want all your instruments on a separate circuit that wasn't internet capable, so to speak. So I don't know how they designed it. I'm sure the geniuses at the aerospace companies designed it with fail-safes and no backdoors or anything. I'm just thinking, thinking out loud, basically. So why do we, even the comms, it uploads to this satellite system. I mean, essentially, why do we have this system where someone can sit in the basement of the White House and watch the Special Forces mission happen in real time from satellite imagery and stuff like that? And basically it's because important people want to feel important. They want the television show happening in real life. They want to see the real life mission happening. You know what I mean? They need to see that. Everything's visual, and it's this concentration of power to the top brass in the military and the president wanting to watch a mission completed in real life on a big screen, right? Like, if I was president or if I was in part of an administration, I would encourage a different, because it used to be the president approved a mission. We're going to send special forces into this prison to get this journalist out of a prison. Here's bam, 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 here's what we're going to do, exactly the mission planned out. Do you approve of this? Yes. All right, I'm signing off on it. Get it done. Then you count on your soldiers to follow every instruction. They might have to improvise at certain points depending on the situation, but they're highly trained. They follow every instruction to the best of their capabilities, and they complete the mission, and you don't have to watch it on a big screen, right? So I guess my point is, if you're feeding information across all these satellites, just get it to DC, that doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't you run those missions, like in the Middle East, from a command center in Germany and cut out some of the satellite links and get it to a safe command center as close as possible to the war zone or the fighting or the mission, right? So that's what I would encourage, that you can sign off on a mission and count on your military to complete it. And if we want accountability, we have the technology now to have cameras on our military personnel with almost unlimited storage capacity. I mean, probably days worth of video can be stored on a small little camera, right? That's impossible to erase. So every soldier can have a camera on them, and then after the mission's complete, as part of the debriefing, right after the mission's complete, our intelligence agencies can use computer CGI and computer animation to reconstruct the mission, right? And exactly what went wrong. Here's what we found on the video, and you talk to the soldiers and they say, well, this guy popped up here, so we shot him, and this happened here, and this exploded, and you recreate it. It might take days to debrief, but you recreate. We now have the technology for computer animation to recreate the whole scenario without having a satellite watching the special forces from above as things go down, right? So like I said, I'd like to move away from satellite technology is where my big push is. I personally think the United States reneged on an agreement between, and I expressed this when I was in Denmark, between Russia and China. I don't know who reneged first, but it was probably the United States. When they sent up the first satellite, communication satellites, the Intellisats, there was 2 from the U.S., 2 from Russia, and 2 from China. And they even set up a communication system to speak directly to the Kremlin, to Russia. And there was supposed to be debate and discussion anytime any other satellites went up in the air. There was supposed to be a not a heated, but an intense discussion amongst the populations of those countries. Instead, we let the media companies send up all kinds of communication satellites over our domestic territory and said we don't need permission from these other countries to fly them over our own country, and then somehow that morphed into we can fly them anywhere in the world, right? Maybe that's why Russia and China hold animosity towards the United States. I'm just putting it out there. Who reneged on that agreement, the original Intellisat agreement first? The only way to know that is if you were spying on the other countries, so it's kind of a moot point. Anyhow, so we have important people that want to watch important missions on the big screen in the White House, right? So the point of why I'm pushing for using Ken's property, booking up all those sites, but nobody really camping there, is to reduce the amount of time I have to spend getting firewood and interacting with people at that campground. Because I think the focus should be on ending the war in Ukraine, right? So let's put everything on cruise control as far as income. And again, I said the supercomputers might take an interest in my livelihood, what creates my livelihood. So $5,000 a week through that campground. Me and Ken agreed on that I would get 25% of the revenue generated from the website for campground bookings. So that's $5,000 a month. That would allow me to buy the royal wood, the American wormy chestnut. I could pay my dad an incredibly inflated rate for that wood. Ken does have some of that American wormy chestnut as well. But again, so basically we set all these websites on cruise control. Things are pinging my bank account, and I can focus on producing these videos, watching the news and stuff like that, and getting on that ship in the Mediterranean, working our way around however long that takes. You know, I might be away from the campground duties. Again, all this money is going to go to nonprofits, right? I proposed a ton of great programs. All the money is going to go to nonprofits. All the money is going to be, the taxes are going to be paid on it. Ken writes me a check for $5,000 a month. Taxes, I'll figure it out with accounting at the end of the year. Taxes are going to be paid on all this income that comes in. Unless we can set up nonprofits before the end of the year, which I will work on, to try to get some of that money into the nonprofits and work that out legally for tax purposes. But the big push from now until November is to try to do as much in Ukraine as possible without actually going to Ukraine. I mean, I will go to Ukraine to set up initial provisions, but if Ken gets elected in November, we can then talk to him and see if he'd be willing to sign the peace treaty, come to Ukraine and sign the peace treaty, so on and so forth. Again, this gets accelerated if Macron signs the peace treaty. Then we have real legitimacy behind that. And some things that could be added to the peace treaty: all military personnel have to have a camera without a ability to erase the video when they go into top secret missions, things like that. Doesn't have to be wirelessly linked. All the video can be stored on the hard drive, but it cannot be erased in the field. Because we can see what is happening in Ukraine with not all military personnel can be trusted to not commit war crimes. I believe the United States military has learned its lessons from Vietnam and things like that, and we don't want to repeat some of those atrocities that have happened in war zones. But war is insane, and all rules go out the door usually when people are surrounded by chaos. So that can be added to the peace treaty. Anyway, so I'm focused on, and I think moving this yacht in a perimeter around the EU to get international acceptance of the idea for 15 months you can't enter the EU on fake passports is a big thing, right? And I don't know how long that trip will take. It can be a quick one. It can take months. Hillary and I on the ship, working our way around Europe and possibly making some videos on a different computer on the ship, similar to this, with compressed video files so that they can easily be downloaded. Perhaps instead of a video journal, there would be a captain's log, right? I really think that it's worth a shot to see if a month-long trip around Europe, if any movement happens in Ukraine, Russia, and then again I can come overland down to Ukraine. I can try to start and then we'll be working on the technology company, obviously, the social media company. What I wanted to say about the ship in Barbuda that got legally auctioned off because it was confiscated from a Russian oligarch. It was auctioned off by Barbuda, and I forget the other island associated with it, but they auctioned it off. It might still be in the Caribbean, if that's the case. Look, I look at this as that Russian oligarch might have got a copy of Femme Party, the novel I wrote. And maybe when everybody was scrambling to figure out what to do to get out of Russia, Maybe he sent that ship to Barbuda and said, park it there, because I think it's a good idea to help South America with these shipping container houses, and I want my ship to end up there. Right? He said, that's a good program. I wish Russia could develop a program like that for somewhere in their own time zone, Africa or whatever. So I think that's a good choice for a ship, but there's a bunch of these confiscated ships, some already in the Mediterranean, so whatever the best option is. But if that one is in Barbuda and that's the one we're going to use for this program, what I would suggest is I covered the whole East Coast except for Delaware and Virginia. So corporate executives, so on and so forth, can fly in and out of Virginia and Delaware right now using fake passports and so on and so forth, because it's not part of the agreement. So what I would suggest is that ship be brought up to a port in Virginia. I talked to my father. I say me and Hillary are going to have to be in Europe, kind of explain why I need the royal wood from him, make an offer for him, and then we rent a U-Haul. Since we covered all those states going down to Florida to help out with the hurricane, it makes sense that me and my dad would rent a U-Haul, drive all that wormy chestnut across Pennsylvania, go down through Delaware, down to the port in Virginia. Me and my father personally load the ship with the wormy chestnut to be taken across the Atlantic into the Mediterranean. So that payload would be on that ship, and then my father and I can rent a vehicle, turn the U-Haul in, rent a vehicle with a USB port. I'll have the USB. We can drive back up through Virginia and Delaware and cover the whole state on our way back to Pennsylvania. That would get us coverage for that, so that the whole East Coast is covered. So what I want to end with is this. I said very important politicians want to watch real life, basically carnage happen on a big screen, right? Because they want to feel important. And it's the same thing in the corporate world. We used to value labor in our economy based on logic and reason. We said that person can fix a shoe, I can't do that, or I'm not specialized, I don't have practice, I don't do it every day. So I value their labor at $30 an hour. That person can put a roof on, I can't do that, I value their labor at $50 an hour. Right? So on and so forth. Now with the internet, you can find a YouTube video on how to do anything, but there's still specialization. You're still going to trust someone that does that every day. You could do a quick fix, you could do a porch roof, but when it's your whole house's roof, you're going to trust someone, you're going to pay them, you used to pay them what they're worth. We've now conglomerized everything so that there's just a few very important people that get fed all the information, right? All the information is gathered for them, and they just have a mandate to make as much profit for the investors as possible, right? We've created this corporation to protect all of the executives, and you just have to make the most amount of profit as possible. No one can come after your own personal assets because of the structure of our corporation. The worst thing that's going to happen is that you get paraded out in front of Congress, in front of a bunch of senators, and they scream at you for a couple hours, and then you go home to your mansion in your Porsche and smoke a cigar and drink a glass of scotch. Right? That's the structure of the United States. You pay people hundreds of millions of dollars to make cutthroat decisions based off of profit margins. And they don't even necessarily come up with innovative ideas. Their managerial staff does, their junior executives come up with all the solutions, which are also cutthroat, so that they can be at the top someday. So they don't even really do any of the thinking. It's literally a job that anyone that has a grasp of mathematics could do, right? I just have to make my profit margin as high as possible. Yes, let's go with that plan. Yes, let's go with that plan. Let's do this, let's do that. And we pay those people $30 million a year, $100 million a year, so on and so forth. That's a job. That's their job. Anyone could do their job. It's not a specialty. It's not, I have to know how to fix this shoe. It's literally, I just have to have a grasp of mathematics. Anyone could do it. So, I criticize the important politicians. Now I criticize the important executives. Like I said, I don't hold back, and that's why I think I should be given a freedom of speech stipend so that I can continue to criticize everyone to make a better world, one that makes sense, one where we value each other's labor because that's the way it used to be, you know. So anyway, join me later today on Wednesday. If Hillary doesn't get COVID, she will be on a live broadcast on KDKA from 3 to 5 p.m. sometime in between there. So let's use this opportunity to validate our media systems in other countries. So I'm going to talk about Hillary, why she's a good candidate for the EU freedom of speech stipend from the EU militaries. So I'll do that later today. So again, we'll talk about that later today. Thanks for watching, and join me later.